In October 1998, a 21-year-old student at the University of Wyoming was kidnapped, severely beaten, and left tied to a fence in the middle of a prairie outside of Laramie, Wyoming. His bloodied, bruised, and battered body wasn't discovered until the next day, and he died several days later in an area hospital.
There are moments in history when a particular event brings the various ideologies and beliefs prevailing in a culture into sharp focus. The brutal murder of Matthew Shepard was another event of this kind. In its immediate aftermath, the nation launched into a dialogue which brought to the surface how we think and speak about homosexuality, sexual politics, education, class, privileges, violence, and rights, and the difference between tolerance and acceptance.
On November 14, 1998, the members of the Tectonic Theater Project traveled to Laramie, Wyoming, and conducted interviews with the people of the town. During the next year, we would return to Laramie several times and conduct over 200 interviews. The play you're about to see is edited from those interviews, as well as journal entries from the members of the company and other found texts.
Jedediah Schultz.
If you would have asked me before, I would have told you that Laramie is a beautiful town, secluded enough that you can have your own identity. Town with a strong sense of community, you know? Everyone knows everyone. You know, that personality that most of the larger cities are stripped of. Now, after Matthew Shepard, I would say that we're a town defined by an accident, a crime. We've become Waco, we've become Jasper. We're a noun, a definition, a sign. We may be able to get rid of that, but it'll sure take a while.
Marge Murray.
Well, I've been close enough to the case to know many of the people on it. I've got a daughter on the sheriff's department. As far as the gay issue, I don't really give a damn one way or the other as long as they don't bother me, and even if they did, I'd just say no thanks, and that's the attitude of most of the Laramie population. They might poke one, they were in a bar situation, you know, they've been drinking. They might actually smack one in the mouth, but then they just walk away. Most of them said they'd just say, I don't swing that way, and whistle on about their business. Laramie is live and let live.
Matt Galloway.
I want to make this brief, quick, get it over with, but it will be everything factual, just the facts. Okay, here we go. 10 o'clock, I clock in usual time, Tuesday nights. 10:30 about, Matthew Shepard arrives, alone, sits down, orders a Heineken. Taking care of me, as in tips, everything conversation, clean cut, well dressed. Some people you know, please, thank you, offers intellect within their vocabulary. Approximately 11:45, 11:30, 11:45, Russell Henderson and Aaron McKinney show up. Now, I didn't know their names then, but they're accused. So they come in, and they come in very dirty, stone-faced, grungy, rude, gimme, that type of thing. And as you know, they came up to the bar and paid for a pitcher in dimes and quarters. Now that is something you don't forget. You don't forget that $5.50 in dimes and quarters, that's a freaking nightmare. No, they claim that Matthew approached them, that he came onto them. I absolutely, positively disbelieve and rebut that statement. 100% refuted. So the only thing I'm testifying to, and this is I'm also basically the key eyewitness on this case, the only thing I'm testifying to is that I saw Matthew leave. I saw two individuals leave with Matthew. I didn't see their faces, but I saw that back of their heads. At the same time, Russell Henderson and Aaron McKinney were no longer around, so you do the math.
I responded to the call.
Officer Reggie Floody.
When I got there, at first, the first thing I could see was partially someone's feet, and I got out of my vehicle and raced over. I see what appeared to be a young man, 13, 14 years old, because he looked so tiny on the ground, and he was tied to the bottom end of the pole. I did the best I could. The gentleman lying down, Matthew Shepard, he was covered in dried blood. There was dried blood all over his head, and there was dried blood underneath him. He was barely breathing. He was doing the best he could. Like I said, he was covered in partially dried blood, and he wasn't breathing. And I tried to breathe for him, but I couldn't get his mouth open. His mouth wouldn't open. His mouth wouldn't open for me. Like I said, he was covered in partially dried blood all over, except for one spot on his face where he appeared to be crying and down on the ground.
Dr. Cantway.
Now, the strange thing is, 20 minutes before Matthew Shepard was brought into the hospital, Aaron McKinney was brought in by his girlfriend. Now, I guess he got into a fight later that night back in town or something. So, I'm working on Aaron, and the ambulance brings in Matthew. Now, at this point, I don't know if there's any connection at all. So, I tell Aaron to wait, and I go to treat Matthew. So there you have Aaron McKinney in one room of the ER, and 2 doors down, Matthew Shepard. Now, as soon as we saw Matthew, it was very clear that his care was far beyond our capabilities. We contacted the neurosurgeon at Padre Valley, and he was on the road in an hour and 15 minutes, I think.
I saw a picture of Matthew. Days later, they showed me a picture. I would have never recognized him.
Our focus turns to Laramie's Albany Courthouse, where Aaron James McKinney and Russell Arthur Henderson are being charged for the brutal beating of Matthew Shepard.
The essential facts are that the defendants, Aaron James McKinney and Russell Arthur Henderson, met Matthew Shepard at the fireside bar, and after Mr. Shepard confided he was gay, the subjects deceived him into leaving with them in their vehicle to a remote area. Upon arrival at said area, both subjects tied Mr. Shepard to a fence, robbed him, tortured him, and beat him. They were later contacted by the Laramie Police Department, in which they found in the cab of their pickup a credit card and patent leather shoes belonging to the victim.
I don't think there was anyone left in that courtroom who wasn't crying at the end of it. I mean, it lasted 5 minutes, but getting more and more horrific, ending with...
Said defendants left the victim begging for his life.
Sergeant Hain, a detective at the Laramie Police Department.
How could this happen? Well, what I think a lot of people don't understand, even I don't understand, just how someone could do something like this. We have one of the most vocal populations of gay people in the entire state. And it's pretty much just live and let live.
John Peacock, Matthew Shepard's academic advisor.
More and more details came in about the sheer brutality, motivations, how this happened. And then, quite frankly, the media descended before we had any time to reflect on it.
There's a lot more gay people around than you think.
Murdoch Cooper.
I'm just saying, not a lot of people are bothered by it because most of them that are gay or lesbian, they know damn well who to talk to. If you step out of line, you're asking for it. Some people are saying to me to pass it that you don't pick up regular people. Look, I'm not excusing their actions, but it made me feel a little bit better because, maybe it was partially Matthew Shepard's fault and partially the guys who did it, Maybe it's 50-50.
Yes, as a lesbian, I was more concerned for my safety.
Saki Solomon, an administrator at the University of Wyoming.
And I think that it's because we all know that it could happen to any of us at any time, really. I mean, I'd be afraid to walk down the street and display any sort of physical affection for my partner. You just don't do that here in Laramie.
It's this whole idea. You leave me alone, I leave you alone.
Jonas
And it's even in some of Western literature, live and let live. That is such crap. I tell my friends that. Even some of my gay friends bring it up sometimes, and I'm like, that is such crap, you know? What, if I don't tell you I'm a fag, you're not going to beat the crap out of me? What's so great about that? That's a great philosophy?
Matthew Shepard medical update given by CEO at Padre Valley in Fort Collins, Colorado for Monday, October 12th, 4:30 a.m.
At 12 midnight, October 12th, Matthew Shepard's blood pressure began to drop. We immediately notified his family, who were already in the building. At 12:53 a.m., Matthew Shepard died. His family was at his bedside. The family did ask me to release the following statement. The family would like to express their sincerest gratitude to the entire world for their overwhelming response to their son. The family was glad they did not have to make a decision regarding whether or not to continue life support for their son. Like a good son, he was caring to the end and removed guilt from the family. He came into the world premature and left the world premature. Matthew's mother said, "Go home, give your kids a hug, and don't let a day go by without telling them that you love them."
Mr. Henderson, you have a constitutional right to make a statement if you would like to do so. Is there anything you would like to say?
Yes, I would, Your Honor. Mr. and Mrs. Shepard, there's not a day that goes by that I don't see what happened that night. I know what I did was very wrong, and I regret greatly what I did. You have my greatest sympathy for what happened. Your Honor, I know what I did was very wrong. I'm very sorry for what I did, and I'm ready to pay my debt for what I did.
Mr. Henderson, you drove the vehicle that took Matthew Shepard to his death. You bound him to that fence so that he might be more savagely beaten and in order that he might not escape to tell his tale. Leaving him there for 18 hours, knowing full well where he was, and perhaps having the opportunity to save his life. This court does not believe that you feel any true remorse for your actions, and I wonder whether you understand the gravity of what you've done. Therefore, the court finds appropriate that the sentence be as follows.
Almost a year to the day that Matthew Shepard died, the trial set for Aaron James McKinney was set to begin. During the trial, the prosecution played a taped recording of his confession. Here is an excerpt.
Okay, so you guys, you and Russ, you're down at the fireside. So you're at the fireside by yourselves, right?
Yeah.
What happens after you leave the fireside?
Some kid wanted to ride home.
What's he look like?
Looks like a queer, such a queer dude.
He looks like a queer?
Yeah, like a fag, you know?
Okay. How'd you meet him?
He asked us for a ride, and I thought, well, the dude's drunk, let's just take him home.
When did you and Russ talk about jacking him up?
We talked about it at the bar.
What happened next?
Drove out, we drove over past Walmart, we drove over there, and he starts, grabbing at my leg, grabbing at my genitals, and I'm like, look, I'm not a faggot, alright? If you touch me again, you're gonna get it. I don't know what he was trying to do, but I beat him up pretty bad. I think I killed him.
When the defense argued that McKinney did what he did because Matthew made a pass at him, I wanted to vomit. That's like saying it's okay. That's like the Twinkie defense when the guy killed Harvey Milk in Moscone. It's the same thing.
Rebecca Hilliker, head of the theater department at the University of Wyoming.
As much as a party part of me didn't want the defense to say that it was a gay bashing or a gay panic. A part of me was relieved when they did, because I was afraid that they would say it was a robbery or that it was about drugs. So when the defense argued that it was a gay panic, I felt that this was good, because if nothing else, the truth was being told. The truth is coming out.
We of the jury and panel who sworn to try the above entitled case have truly tried the matter and find as follows. As to the charge of kidnapping, we find the defendant, Aaron James McKinney, guilty. As to the charge of aggravated robbery, we find the defendant, Aaron James McKinney, guilty. As to the charge of first-degree felony murder, we find the defendant, Aaron James McKinney, guilty.
Aaron McKinney was found guilty of felony murder, which meant the jury could give him the death penalty. That evening, the defense team approached Mrs. and Mr. Shepard, who pled for their client's death. The following morning, Dennis Shepard made a statement to the court. Here's some of what he said.
Matthew's beating, hospitalization, and funeral focused worldwide attention on hate. Good is coming out of evil. People have said that enough is enough. I miss my son, but I am proud to be able to say that he is my son. I would like nothing better than to see you die, Mr. McKinney. However, this is the time to begin the healing process. To show mercy to one who refused to show mercy. Mr. McKinney, I'm going to grant you life, as hard as it is for me to do so because of Matthew. You robbed me of something very, very precious, and I can never forgive you for that. Mr. McKinney, I'm going to grant you life in the memory of one who no longer lives. May you live a long life, and may you thank Matthew every day for it.
Me and the three hugged and cried, and you're just so thankful, and Mr. Shepard was bawling, and that got me crying. And
This has been all we've lived and breathed for a year. Daily. This has been my case daily. And now it's over.
maybe we could go on and be less stuck,
On our last trip to Laramie, we had the good fortune of seeing Jedediah Schultz play the role of Pryor in Angels in America, and after the performance we spoke.
I didn't ever, for 1 second, let myself become personally involved in the whole Matthew Shepard thing. It didn't seem real. It just felt way blown out of proportion, Matthew Shepard? That's just a name, not an individual. I don't know, it's just weird. It's just weird, man. I just feel bad. Just for all that stuff that I told you, just for the person that I used to be. That's why I wish I could, go back to all those interviews from last year and see when I said all that stuff about homosexuals. I can't believe I ever said any of that stuff, How did I ever let any of that stuff make me think you were any different from me?
This is Jonas Slomaker.
Change is not an easy thing. And honestly, I don't think people here were up to it. They got what they wanted. Those two boys got what they deserved, and we look good now. Justice has been served. The OK Corral. We shot down the villains. We sent the prostitutes on the train. The town cleaned up, and we don't need to talk about it anymore. It's been a year since Matthew died, and they haven't passed shit in Wyoming. On a state level, any town, nobody anywhere has passed any kind of anti-discrimination or hate crime legislation laws. Nobody has done anything anywhere. What's come out of it? What's come out of it that's concrete or lasting?
We said we would meet again, one last time at the fence.
I've been up to that side of my limousine, all right? And I remember the night Matthew and I, drove around, and he said to me, you know, Laramie sparkles, doesn't it? And if you go up there, right where he was, Laramie does sparkle with a low-lying cloud. It's the blue light that bounces off the airport, and it goes tss, 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 right over the whole city. I mean, it blows you away. Matthew was up there, right in that spot. And I can just picture what he was seeing. The last thing Matthew Shepard ever saw on earth was those sparkling lights.